everyone, so it turns out we missed a good amount of stuff while the feeds were down. I wanted to do a quick little update with some stuff before getting into tonight's episode. So I was watching the feeds and I saw Kevin walk in on Cody and Danny talking game. I was wondering if Cody would say something to Danny about what's going on. I'm sure Danny has caught on to something she's been asking around, and she was even saying that Cody was treating her differently, Enzo was treating her differently. She was saying Cody was being really mean to her, and he really does get in these moods where he can be snarky. I know Danny does it as well, but they of course clash a good amount. So yeah, it was really awkward when Kevin walked in on it and he's like, yeah, I'm just gonna come get something, and they're like, oh, we're not doing anything, don't worry, and he's like, oh no, you're talking, you know. Obviously the talking game, you know. So I was hoping in that moment he would realize that Danny, Cody are super close, Danny's in the core, you know. I was hoping that would click in his head, but Ian and Kaysar had a really nice talk. At the end of it, they hugged and it was really sweet. Everybody was saying that Ian was crying after. I saw the clip and I don't know if it was crying. His face was in his hands and he was visibly upset, but I don't know if it was necessarily crying. It could be. I'm not exactly sure. Bottom line, he feels bad, he's upset, and yeah. Kaysar was giving him information, telling him what's going on, and obviously Kaysar has been trying to tell these people from the beginning and nobody wants to listen to him, but he was giving Ian some information before he likely leaves on Thursday. Ian mentioned that he thinks that people want him to think that he's not on their radar, that that's what they're going for, and I'm like, yes, Ian, exactly. You are definitely on people's radar. And of course people are gonna lie to him and tell him that he's not. Ian thankfully doesn't share all of his revelations with Nicole. For obvious reasons, he doesn't. Nicole said that Bae would put them up. Ian, of course, goes along with it, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But he's, of course, on to her. It seems like Cody and Nicole did talk about the whole Danny situation, and Cody told her that Danny's in hot water, she's in trouble, people are gunning for her, and that's the situation they're in, and they agree that she did it to herself. Now the question is, will Nicole fill Danny in on this information, or will she just let Danny go? Kevin was discussing, well, I guess it wasn't really a discussion, he was telling the camera his thoughts on the house guests, and we got to hear some more of his amazing reads. Of course, I've never played Big Brother, so it has to be harder when you're actually playing the game. He was saying that Ian is this nerd that he wished he had on his original season. Danny is a popular cheerleader girl who's friends with the nerds, which I'm like, okay. He was saying that Davon is withholding information from him, but she's really funny. So apparently the Slick Six minus Danny had a meeting and discussed gunning for her. So yeah, hopefully this is in the cards next week. Imagine Danny or Nicole wins HOH, and then what? Enzo was saying that he's scared of Ian. He's scared what he's gonna do if he wins HOH next week. And I'm just like, if you're so scared of Ian, like, why didn't you put him on the blog? Why didn't you try to get him out? Like, you wanted to make big moves, but now you're just left talking about how scared you are of him. I thought Christmas was in a really good position, but Bae has caught on to her. She caught on to the snakiness that is Christmas right now. So Bae said that she would put Nicole Franzel and Christmas on the block and then backdoor Danny. All of that would be very interesting. I know a lot of girls have gone home, but that would be an interesting week. I'm sure a lot of blow-ups. So hoping for a Bae, Day, or Ian win. Even Tyler, you know, he'll go after. I guess we'll see. Okay, so for tonight's episode, could have guessed Kevin's DR about being a queen, not a pawn. I'm really going to miss Kaysar and his DR sessions. they're just him, you know? So yeah, it was hard for me to watch this episode knowing how things turn out. And at the end of this episode, doesn't seem like there's going to be any twist or anything out of the ordinary happening tomorrow. So things aren't looking good. Enzo's DR about Kaser was rude. So for all these house guests that, you know, take advantage of Kaser's niceness and the fact that they think that he could do something for them outside of this house, honestly, it's just like, I don't know why the camera zoomed in on those light up hearts after Enzo and Kaser's conversation. It really was not that type of conversation from what I gathered. So whether you love or hate David, he was right about one thing. He really hurt his game last week, and he's right to not feel comfy. Just like Ian said, Enzo in his speech was talking about game talk and how basically an open invitation to talk game with him, that he wants to talk game with people, and then gets annoyed and overwhelmed with all the game talk. Well, be careful what you ask for. So much talk about getting Ian out this episode, and it just further brings up the point as to why didn't they do it then? You know, they're just all talk. The mornings with Memphis was actually my favorite part of today's episode. I thought it was really funny. Memphis, the old man in the house, wakes up really early, and I know, like, when I've turned on the feeds, it's just like him awake there with a blanket, with his coffee, just sitting there waiting for everybody to wake up. But I thought that whole segment was really funny about guessing the headlines. I would totally vote for Janelle for president. Make America fabulous again. That is a great slogan. Tyler, of course, first one picked for veto. They really need to check those chips. Tyler is always playing. And Kevin again gets house guest choice. It's funny because when you look at the first time around when he chose Enzo to now, he was a lot happier to pick David. It wasn't as much of a sad moment like he has no one type of thing. It's funny because in the video it comes down to Kevin and David, and they of course want to prove something to the house, but of course Kevin wants to take himself off the block. So it's interesting that it came down to Kevin and the person he chose as house guest's choice. I thought it was funny that Kaser said he hoped it would be Ian or Nicole because he thinks that he can beat them in a physical comp. And then it turns out to be a physical comp that actually favors smaller, slimmer people. Kevin really thrived in it. And I don't know, maybe Ian would have done well on this as well. This was the wrong comp for Kaser. This is the absolute worst type of comp for him. I felt so bad. You could tell he gave it his all. He obviously wants to stay. He wants to play the game. He doesn't want his BB journey to end, but he couldn't do more than what he did. I really did not want to watch that conversation between Kaser and Bae again. It's just very uncomfortable, and just seeing her snap at him makes me feel really, really bad. Like, I get, you know, she feels, I've mentioned this in a previous video, that he is telling her how to play the game and criticizing her, and she just doesn't want to hear it. So I get that, but the way she was just snapping at him made me feel really bad for him. Like, obviously he wants to play and he wants people to align with him, and yeah, I really did not want to watch that again. And in the DR, she's saying that her loyalty is to Janelle, not him, which is, you know, spot on what I was saying in my previous video, that yeah, her loyalty was with Janelle. Janelle's gone and she's trying to do what's best for her game, but she doesn't realize that at the moment in the episode that she's an outsider and they're coming for her. That Slick Six is not real. That combo commercial for BB and Love Island got me so excited because I saw Janelle and I was like, oh my god, is she back? I was like, wait, why is Janelle there? I thought it was again that they're playing a clip from when she was in the house, except this time they didn't Photoshop her out. But no, it was just a promo for Love Island and BB. So the puppet master, Vito. So was Raven the motivation for this comp? When she called herself the puppet master, I was like, what? We all know that Dr. Will Kirby is the puppet master. Danny's comment about her pulling all the strings doesn't age well. You know, I think Evil Dick said she's pulling the strings for her own eviction. Memphis hosting this comp did not disappoint. It was really funny to watch. Apparently he pulled his back further. I was wondering how he hurt his back, but apparently it was hurting before and then he just made it worse. That Vito looked exhausting and it was painful to watch. I was like, can it be over? It just looked very uncomfortable, and the cramping and the shaking, I was like, oh no. Kevin deserved that win. He had a lot of heart in it and he really wanted it, so he didn't give up, and I thought that moment of him dedicating it to his husband was so sweet. So yeah, that's all I have. Let me know what you're thinking about what's going on in the house, about this episode, and yeah, who do you want to win HOH? I'm not even gonna ask who do you think is going home because I think that's obvious. So don't forget to like and subscribe. More BB content on the way.